All right, thank you for staying with us. Members of the Organised Labour, comprising both the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, have carpeted the 36 state governors for saying they could not afford to pay 60,000 naira as minimum wage to Nigerian workers. Recall that after the Organised Labour began their strike on the 3rd of June, after which they suspended it temporarily, negotiations continued with President Tinubu agreeing to pay over 60,000 naira as minimum wage. As it is, the governors have rejected this amount, saying many states might have to borrow to pay this money. But the Organised Labour is saying welfare of the workers needs to be prioritized. Well, joining us in the studio is Project Manager, Social Entrepreneur, Engineer Akin Olafosi. Good morning.
Morning, Veronica. Thank you very much.
And we also have joining us the President here, Warri Youth Council, Abayomi Okeashuaju. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
Yeah.
Now, this matter is on the front burner, everybody having one talk or the other, and all eyes are waiting to see what happens today, because today seems to be the deadline. Organised Labour gave the federal government with regards to a conclusion on what the wage would be at the end of the day. Even though the government is saying 62,000 naira according to reports, Labour is saying that they are going to wait for what the National Assembly will do and what the President will also say with regards to this. Then that will determine their action moving forward. But as it stands, what are your interpretations of how these negotiations have gone?
All right, thank you. For me, I think we find ourselves here because we seem not to be prepared for a day like this. Because before now, there is a law that states that after every, I think, 5 years, we should always review the minimum wage. And if we had been proactive as a government, I think we would not have got into a situation whereby Labour would have to embark on an indefinite strike just to drive home their demands. You know, this should have been catered for. In fact, you know, it will make a lot of sense if government had been the one that had called Labour to a sit-down meeting earlier before now to say, okay, we want to propose, let us negotiate, let's begin to talk about it. So if they had opened the conversation earlier before now, I think we would have found ourselves in this kind of a situation. But nevertheless, it's still not late. I think both sides need to really look into the matter and, of course, just suppose the amount they are placing on the table with the current economic realities on ground. I read a report, not a formal one, maybe an informal one, where somebody said if they should increase the minimum wage to 250,000 naira, she is going to start selling a crate of egg for nothing less than 15,000 naira. Presently, I think a crate of egg is about 4,000 naira thereabout. Yeah. So definitely it's going to, because he feels that, she feels that you are earning more. So
you have
by
the
default,
capacity to pay more.
you have the capacity to be. By default, I would just increase my, commodity price as well. So that's why I said there is the need for the two sides to show consideration, considering the fact that the current economic realities. Let us look at it and see what is applicable or what can work. I think that's
perhaps this is why some persons are saying that the position of Labour with regards to this negotiation is not being realistic in terms of it's not considering the attendant implication, like you pointed out, as someone said. Because if you look at the papers this morning, especially the Vanguard, experts are already worried about the implication of the decision at the end of the day today. And so some have said that perhaps Labour should have been looking at, okay, let's address the cost of living as it is, as against just pushing for an increase in wage.
Okay, so thank you for having me, like I said. So from my own point of view, there's Labour, there's governors, and it was said that governors rejected it. So let's break it down to the governors, right? We understand that all governors cannot reject it because all hands are not equal. Talking about, yes,
the viability of states.
Yes. Let's talk about their monthly allocation or their IGR or their FEC allocation. Which of these states? Okay, I was checking through Google yesterday and I noticed that there are top states that has IGRs, which is Lagos, Ogun, Cross River, the River State, and also they're the least ones with the lowest IGR, which is Kebbi, Jigawa, Ebonyi, Winekiti. So can they compare themselves to each other? No. So, okay, yes, can Lagos afford it? Question mark. I'm not in government, but can Lagos afford it? But based
Lagos is actually paying
70,000 naira. Okay,
even
great.
Edo State
River
is
State paying 70,000. Edo State, I heard it's paying 70,000 naira, but is there a confirmation of that?
Yes,
okay,
that's
fine.
what they are paying.
So this state can afford it based on the Nigeria of that they are getting, but the others. And also, now let's talk about, let's go to Labour. Right, Labour is pushing out a figure.
250.
And of course, they have to counter. That's negotiation. That's the problem. You have to counter. But there are other things that also Labour can drive towards, not just standing. Like you said, someone's getting 250K. Of course, there's going to be an increase, like inflation. But there are other things, other perks around it. Can Lagos, hold on, can NLC also negotiate with some of the states one-on-one? I'm just saying, government can put a blanket fee out there, or even government should even, in my own opinion, government should even put...
Labour initially had this conversation with some state governments. They went around some of the states that were willing to have the conversation with them. And some of the states said, this is the amount we can pay, and we cannot pay certain amounts as it is. Before they now came to the federal government, now this is where we are. So
federal governments, Labour need to accept what these states can pay and also negotiate with the other states that can pay more based on their idea, because they can't use all their monies to pay salaries or to pay for minimum wage. How about other developmental projects? How about other projects? There are also recurring bills I need to pay on based on their idea. So they can't just dump all this money on the states. So Labour still need to understand that this state cannot afford that. But there are other implications, other perks around the incentives. Okay, as a government worker, as my staff, as a Labour staff, what else can you do in terms of health, HMOs? At least in private sectors have HMOs. Private, in terms of HMOs, in terms of transport. I recall recently Lagos slashed transportation costs.
Yeah. When we're talking about palliatives.
Yeah, exactly. So why can't they have other palliatives around it? What are the other perks that they can enjoy? Okay, yes, you can't pay the 60 or 62,000 naira, but okay, but for health, I can have a discount. For transport, as long as I can show my ID card to you that I am a staff or government worker, then I can have, a reduced figure based on that. So there are other perks around it, not just focusing on a particular figure.
Well, that brings me back to the other question, the question that I still raised, talking about negotiating cost of living as against just pushing for a wage, because this covers just a section of people and not just everyone. Stemming from what he said, if I have an ID card of a government worker, how about those who are not government workers? What then will be the perks for them? How are we going to ensure that we balance this thing? Because all of us are going to the same markets. All of us are entering the bus. All of us are going to the same places. So do you think that perhaps Labour should be looking at other areas as against just pushing for the increase in salaries?
I agree with you. Labour needs to look at this holistically. Like, there are other areas where we should also push for, adjustments, especially in our, standard of living. Of course, transportation, okay, let's even say this. Civil servants constitute probably less than 40% of the total workforce in the country. So definitely, if government yields to labor demand, it will only affect less than 40% of employees, or workforce in the country. So what about the other, 60%? So, but some of the things that labor can actually advance or agitate for are issues of like transportation, subsidy. You understand? Like even control on price control, because we clearly understand now that people outrageously just increase prices.
Well, recall that there was a time that government threw in that, and a lot of people came guns blazing, saying that I bought this thing, so you cannot tell me how much I should sell.
That's why we need to trace it to the point of production. Now, if I'm producing, or my running cost is, of course, running. So you can't expect me not to place the price on the cost price that I'm going to sell my goods. So if government can decide to now start giving out palliatives to these manufacturing organizations, there's especially needs, especially products that has to do with food, because that is the basic need of man. So if Manufacturers Association of Nigeria can have a sit down with government and they look at some of their running costs and say, okay, I'm going to bring this down for you just because our citizens need to live well, okay? If you are producing food, if you are producing items that are consumables, let us see how we can help you in terms of electricity, because these companies are actually biting so hard. Why? Because they pay so much on generating power and electricity, and of course, they will transfer that cost to the price of their commodities. So these are areas that I feel that Labour should start looking at and push for.
Reminds me that they were talking about the matter of returning the tariff, electricity tariff to what it is, but it seems like from the last agreement they had with government, that was not part of it anymore.
Yes, because these are some of the issues. You see, it is quite, I don't know how to place it, that subsidy was actually removed from fuel, and we expect that things should start working well for Nigerians and, of course, for the citizens. Then you increase electricity tariff one way or the other, just to appease some of us. You said there is band A, there is band B, so whichever we bet. Are you saying that some of these things are not things that we should actually enjoy naturally? Why are people traveling out of the country? It's because they have a system that works out there. They have a system where there is constant electricity, where you don't have to, beg or pray. Even in some churches, they pray to God that there should be light. These are things that does not require prayers, that government should have just fixed ordinarily. So if some of these things are in place, then people will not, but even the issue of minimum wage will not be a discussion now, because what you have, you'll be able to afford things in the market. But presently, why there is agitation for increase in minimum wage, and of course, that kind of amount, is because we feel we need so much to pay for so much. So if we have little and we can pay for little, why not? We would manage. Nigerians are known to be great managers.
Interesting. Let me come back to you now, Akin. This matter of, there's also those who talk about the inconsistencies with Labour's perhaps negotiation. Right. You recall that before we went on before they went on strike, they talked about 60,000 naira. That was when they decided, you know what, there's going to be a shutdown as it is. But they came up with an agreement with government where government said that, you know what, we are going to make an increment. There was no specific on amount on that. And after the whole negotiation, we are seeing 62,000 naira, and people are saying, is it urgent 2K that Labour went on strike for as it is? Talk from your perspective of what you see, how Labour is positioning itself to negotiate with government. What you are seeing with perhaps their inconsistencies and the loopholes that they haven't really been able to firm up as it is, because there are those who are saying that Labour by now should understand how to negotiate with government and get what it wants.
Okay, so like he said earlier, there's this understanding, like law, that every 5 years or 4 years, that's when increments, like in 2019, I think it was 30.
Yeah.
Now it's 60, like over 300%.
100%.
Okay, so what's negotiation from that 30 to 60? And of course, government cannot, like he says, it has to be a negotiation. Government cannot say, okay, you want this, we'll give you this, and now you have it. But also, government also have to also look inward. Can they afford this? Can they even afford? I was even hearing earlier, maybe it's even 250K or thereabout. But when I asked myself, me, Akin, am I even in 250K, in quote and unquote? Can I even pay my house rent or my cleaner or my plumber 250K? Is unrealistic. That's me from a private sector, actually. It's unrealistic. So not even talk about government. So government has other things that they need to look in. So Labour to need to understand that, okay, government has other projects. We keep complaining that there's good roads, lights, people are traveling. This is what government will use the money to make life better for us. But Labour needs to also understand that and also need to come to an agreement. I can understand they're fighting for their workers, but they also need to come to understand that, look, we can't have it all. In my opinion, we can't have it all. But we can come to okay, let's, like he said, is it 2K that, people say 2K like 2K, but there are things working for government. For them that 2K to come up to that 2K, there are things they've seen. Okay, can we do this? Can we bend this? Can we go down this? Can we manage this? Like you said, Nigerians are managers. Can we manage this? But Labour needs to see from their point of view. They need to open the books. Not open the books like that, but they need to come to a closed-door agreement, understanding of why it is 62,000 or 60,000 and why they cannot go higher. And like I said earlier, like you also said, they also need to work with state governors. Like some governors can pay more.
Why? In fact, that's the next thing. Why can't governors pay more as it is? If Lagos State can do it, Edo State can do it, what is happening to the other states that they can't afford to do it?
We have 36 states in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And they're actually sincere, the NGF, I mean the Nigerian Governors Forum. They're actually sincere with their remark that they can't afford to.
It's not
sustainable. Of course, it's not sustainable. If out of 36, we've just mentioned maybe a patry 2% can pay. That does not suffice to mean that all of them can actually sufficiently pay this amount. So it's not a good win for them. But the question that is begging for answer is this. If our governors or our political office holders are showing so much flamboyance, expressing so much, expressing themselves with so much money out there, spending money on some things that are not actually necessary, like the issue of the pilgrimage thing and all that. When we wonder, how come...
That's a sensitive matter.
Yes, how come you can't pay how come we can't pay workers this amount, and you are spending outrageously on some things that do not actually affect Nigerians directly? Now, the flamboyant lifestyles of political office holders have made Labour to insist that if you can do this, then you should also be able to do this. So if probably political office holders have been able to, or in the past, they were able to live a moderate lifestyle, showing empathy and indeed sympathy towards Nigerians and our state, maybe Labour will understand. Because I see the position of Labour like, if you could afford to pay
absolutely, that's why they said they are standing their ground, that if certain things can be paid as allowances and all of that, why can't you pay the average worker, a Nigerian worker, 60,000 or much more?
Meanwhile, the integrity of Labour is also at stake, in the sense that Labour leaders cannot separate themselves entirely from politics. So some people believe that the reason the current Labour leaders are insisting and they're standing their grounds on this matter is because they do not share the same political ideology with the current administration. I understand, but when you are now a party card-carrying member of a political party, that is, of course, an opposition party to the current, so it's hard to separate your emotions politically from this current justification.
Well, they have said that they are not being political, that it's the best interest of
would they say otherwise?
What do we expect?
And so they can't possibly say otherwise. Right. They will say they are fighting for the interests of Nigerians. And that's why I said their integrity is actually at stake. Because at the end of the day, Mr. President or anybody in the ruling party will look at them like, you just want to frustrate my effort because you do not believe in me.
But then it's important we separate politics from this whole matter, because
it's important.
The lives of Nigerians are at stake, and that is what we are debating on as it is. So
I agree with you.
We need to focus on the issues themselves, because as I mentioned earlier, the viability of each state has been brought to the fore, which is what the governors are now talking about. That's why they are saying that it's not sustainable, because some of them, like you pointed out, the IGR, the revenue generated, as well as what they are receiving, they have so many things they are using that for, but that's fine. How about resource control? Because that's what some other persons have said. Perhaps we need to start looking inwards as it is. Resource control, states gets viable, and they can pay whatever amount it is that is thrown at them at the end of the day.
Can I advise?
Go ahead, please.
All right. Can political office holders, governors, presidents, every other office holders, can they begin to show empathy right now? That is what Nigerians want to see. And I think that is exactly why one of the front runners of the presidential election was preferred above others, because he kept on saying that he would not spend so much on governance. And so when we begin to see this play out with this present administration, people will begin to see that, okay, if you are saying Nigerians should endure, you are indeed enduring as well. Then we can show consideration. Just like my father telling me at home, Yomi, you won't be able to go to school because I can't afford your school fees. And the next thing, it brings home a plasma TV. Then the next thing, it brings home one big generator and all that. I will now be wondering, sir, in the order of priority, which one should come first, my education or this? So you want me to stay at home?
He wants you to be comfortable.
You want me to stay at home and be watching a plasma TV and be listening to Bedu or turn the house to a disco house. So we need to set our priorities right. So if those in government set their priorities right, they show a significant level of empathy, I think Nigerians will understand. And anytime they bring in any kind of policy that we think we may need to adjust our lifestyle to, we will definitely adjust our lifestyle.
So invariably, if I hear you correctly, is that these governors can pay.
They can, because most times when they campaign, they tell us that they can do all things, as if Christ actually strengthens them, as it is in the scriptures. So how come that when they now get their reality, we now, stare at them and they will realize that, oh, they can't pay? Because every one of them during campaigns, they will promise labor, they will promise all strata of the society that they can actually attend to their needs. We will fix this road, we will do this, we will do that. But of course, when they get to office, realize that the reality will now stare them at face and they will understand that they can't possibly do all. But what we are saying is, since you have said you will be creative while you are contesting, since you have said that you will be innovative, you will bring in hands that will help you to achieve some of your goals and objectives, why not put them to work now? So that the IGR can be increased. Of course, IGR will be increased without pressure on Nigerians, because that's another thing. Overtaxation of Nigerians will also cost, because in the past, Nigerians have not found succor in government. And they've noticed that their taxes they've paid in the past have not translated to developmental projects. And that's why some people still avoid taxes these days. But if they started seeing genuine, interpretation of tax payments into developmental projects, definitely people will start paying. Okay, I pay electricity bill and we're on prepaid. Do you know why? Because I see the light every time. So it gingers me, it encourages me to pay, whether it is high or not. But the fact that at least whenever I have issues at work, I know that I'm going home to see, I don't know what this lights do to man, to us as human beings. The fact that you get home and you see electricity, there is a beam of hope, and relief. And relief. So, but we pay the exorbitant price of electricity tariff just because some of us see that 20 to 24 hours electricity. So if other things are working, for example, even if you fix road and toll it, the fact that I'm enjoying that road, the fact that I won't have to pay mechanic 3 times in a month to fix my car, I don't mind paying 200 naira at the toll.
We've seen a semblance of that. For instance, the third mainland bridge, which we hear that some people are now beginning to vandalize. Unfortunately, I believe that much more government needs to do from all that you have said with regards to this matter. But let's come to the amount now and what would be reflective of what our current realities are. Government is proposing 62,000 naira, according to reports, even though we don't know if that will be the final figure. Labour is saying 250,000 naira. And you gentlemen are saying that that's not realistic. I wonder if you also share the same.
Yes, for me it's not realistic.
So what would be realistic in your own view?
Okay, so I was even thinking while I was talking, like what could be the solution? My thinking, why have a blanket fee, a blanket figure? The states are not equal in terms of IGR and monthly allocation from the government. So why have a blanket fee? Why can't, in my own thinking, my own view, why can't government, national government says, okay, minimum wage is in the range of 60 to 85,000 or 60 to 70,000 and go and negotiate which pays. Then the governors are coming, okay, I'll try and pick even 58,000 with other incentives added to it. Other state can say, okay, I'm comfortable with 70,000. So why have a blanket fee? Because I think the blanket fee is causing an issue.
That's the minimum any worker should go home with.
Yes.
So each state now negotiates what it is. Government, based on that figure, yes, they can't go less.
They can't go less.
Yes.
That's another angle again. They can't go less. So any labor needs to go and negotiate. Okay, fine. Government, you are saying, we've said, national government said 60,000. State governments, we are coming to you, because they want rejecting it, right? So state government, we are coming to you. Lagos, what can you do for us? What can we do? Ebony State, what can you do? We can't compare Lagos paying 70 and Ekiti based on IGR paying 70. It's not sustainable because it is all cities that are complaining that the roads are bad, this is that, because they're not doing projects. And again, remember, they are recurring bills, expenditures, bills that they need to pay also. So everything is factored into this IGR. So now, Labour now goes to each governor. What can you do? They have representatives across states.
They have state chapters.
Exactly, state chapters. So let's go and negotiate one-on-one with these governors. They're the one rejecting it, so don't make it a blanket fee. Move one-on-one and say, okay.
So the essence for the blanket fee is that each state should not pay less than that. That's what it is.
Yes,
Agreed.
and I think I agree with him that let's have a bracket. Yeah. Okay, between 60 to 80. Of course, because we now have Lagos State paying 70, we have Edo State paying 70. So let's say between 60 to 80, but don't pay less than 80.
Less than that.
And
don't pay above 80. I mean, don't pay above 80 and less than 60.
I mean, don't pay less than 60.
Above, yeah.
But you can pay above
60.
Above 60. Yeah. You can even pay above 80 if you can
afford it.
You see, it is only the governors that are coming out to speak now. Private employers. You think they don't have a voice?
Private sector have said that they can't pay more than 62 or 60.
That's the truth.
I just give an example. Can I pay my...
So your help.
That's why I think there's a serious need for Labour to actually, reconsider their position. Yeah. Because even some of the Labour leaders too, they have employees in their houses.
Exactly.
Can they afford to pay 250,000 naira? Where will it be coming from? You understand? Then
and the egg will not go to...
Now see, there's another thing we also need to look at. Just
okay. Could you just hold the thought?
All right.
Let's go for a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
We see you, how you work hard at your craft, doing your absolute best. We know how the protein, calcium, and vitamins in Dano milk nourish you to go for it. For those big dreams, for your hustle, and for quality time with those you love. So when it comes to choosing nourishment, never compromise on the quality milk that you deserve. Go for it.
Stay ahead with the biggest news stories. Go beyond the news headlines. Experience impactful investigations. Enjoy resourceful news coverage in real time. TVC News at 7 and TVC News at 10 p.m. Live every day on this channel. TVC News. First with breaking news.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the matter of organized labor. The federal government, as well as state governors have come out to say that they can't pay the 60,000 naira being proposed, although the government is said to have proposed 62,000 naira, and they have said that that's state governors that is not sustainable. And Labour is saying that they are waiting on the National Assembly as well as the President before they can decide what their next step will be at the end of the day. Recall that after the government declared 60,000 naira, they had declared an indefinite strike that led to the shutting down of the national grid, and that generated a lot of uproar as it is. But that strike was suspended, and now Labour is saying until the government, the President, and National Assembly come out with a figure before they decide what they will do or how they will move forward from here. We still have our guests in the studio with us, Akin Olafusi, and the President of Yewa, Ori Abamio Kashuaju, still speaking with us on this matter. And before we went on the break, you wanted to say something that
Yes.
something else that we should look at.
Exactly. I think we should look at productivity in the civil service. I'm aware, of course, it's a public knowledge that government is not in the business of running business. They're in the business of providing social services. Right. But of course, we are also aware that government have their hands in some investment or in some businesses that generate revenue for the government. Now, can we begin to look at productivity level of some of these, our employees or civil servants in their respective offices? Are they actually giving us the best service, that commensurates with their demands? You understand?
Right.
Can we sleep and go to bed and say that anytime I call a particular public office, I will get response as it should be? You understand? Because we also need to consider some of these things. Because if governors are saying they are not viable, their states are not viable to pay, one will wonder, okay, are your employees, the civil servants, are they truly working at their optimum performance level to also give back to the state in terms of increasing our, IGR? Because if there is effectiveness at the level of our civil service, definitely it will rub off on some of these things that we are talking about. Do you understand? So definitely too, we will be able to close some loopholes when it comes to financing developmental projects. We won't have to budget so much for projects.
But there are those who would say that because we are more of a consumer nation as against producing nation, you wouldn't get as much level of productivity like you are expecting. That is why I mentioned earlier the matter of looking at states. What it is, every state in Nigeria is blessed with one resource or the other, resource control. Is that where we should be looking at now to explore all of these things?
Definitely. Well, we read it in books, though I wasn't born then, when there was the regional government, when Chief Obafemi Awolowo was able to maintain and sustain the Southwest. The Western region now, that we call that, they call it then. Was able to sustain the Western region. We had so much going on for us then in the Western region, economically, educationally, and then, of course, even infrastructure-wise. How was he able to achieve this? Okay, can some of these our states look inwards too and begin to see what their strength is, or are in this case, and develop their strength in that line so that states can show, governors can begin to see themselves like CEO that has KPIs, working towards achieving a goal and ensuring that the goal also, of course, is smart. You understand? It's something that is specific, measurable, achievable,
timely.
And also, of course, timely within, if you say, okay, I'm going to spend 4 years, can you work within that 4 years first? Don't even begin to think of 8 years at first, because it's first 4 years before you vie for, another election. So can you begin to set goals that are achievable within that 4 years, and let us begin to run, government as if we are entrepreneurs. We own this business. It is our father's business, and we want it to prosper.
That involves thinking outside the box.
In fact, thinking like there is no box at all.
Actually, as it is now, with the statement coming from this governors, he mentioned something. That's why I'm asking this question. 4 years, after 4 years, before you think about seeking re-election as it is, do you think that there are implications to these reactions for the state governors as it is from the people who are expecting so much from them, who believed them, and gave them their votes as it is?
So there's no action without a consequence, in my own opinion. The people voted for them, all right, and the people want good governance. And like he said, a lot was promised, but getting to the office, not much we can see. So yes, there will be implications because again, the next 4 years or the end of the term or end of tenure is around the corner, and the election period again will start.
Hearing promises
again. So the governors right now needs to act on their promises that they promised, or else, if now I can understand some of these governors are ending that, what about the next governor? How about the party? Of course, the party, they will want the continuity of the party to continue, right? So they need to also work towards that. It's not just about them any longer. It's about, again, the responsibility of them to the party, their responsibility to the people, because it's the people that vote, that put them in the office. So they need to come up, make up with their promises and ensure that their promise is kept. So yes, there are implications, but it can be worked on right now. It's negotiation, it's understanding, it's communication. They can work on everything they've promised right now. Sit down and have a talk with these guys. I can keep negotiating for like the next, at least not 100 years anyway, but the earlier the better. Then talk to them, aside from even coming to an open door, an open convention, have a relationship with the state coordinators or the person in charge of the NLC. Let them understand, okay, so sometimes I've noticed something. In business, it's not all the time the deals are made in the office, right? Sometimes it's outside, casual meeting, okay, you talk, you understand yourself more. Then when you now come to the office, okay, just put pen to paper and that's it. But at that point in time, there's a kind of a relationship between both parties, because if two elephants are fighting, the ground suffers. Whatever they are not coming up right now is the people that put them in the offices is going to suffer. So they need to come up with a way to address this issue and come up with the figure. We've already advised or suggested here that they should make it a range, not fine. The government is making a blanket or if one figure, but they can come up, okay, between 60 to 80 range, I can take 65, I can take 70. Is this sustainable with me? Okay, let's try it out, or let's see for the next 4 years, and before the next election comes up. So there's always room for
should it be about election really, or about the interest of the people? Democracy is about the people. You made a promise. You should look at ensuring that you fulfill that promise as it is.
You know, when I said that you can't entirely separate politics from...
Right, we are going back to it.
You know, that's it. You can't entirely separate politics from what is playing out.
Yeah.
And even in the so-called civilized climes where they've practiced democracy for more than 100 years, but they still play politics around the state, you understand? So Labour is key to every government. They want to please Labour, not because they have the highest number of votes, but because they appear organized. And that organization comes in form of this labor union, because most times, look at last week, Monday, they shut down the country.
Shut down the country.
They practically shut down the country.
The airlines, at least.
Yes. You know, if they had left electricity, probably it wouldn't have affected some of us. We'd just be like, well, no, Allah, let's go sit at home and be watching TV. But we could not even watch TV. So, you know, Labour is quite organized, even though they don't have the numbers in terms of, you know, voting power.
But they have that, they wield that influence.
Yes, they will, and that's why government must pay attention to them. And that's why they also consider that during elections, they are one of the critical stakeholders that any political office seeker must engage.
Yeah.
You must engage them. And that's why sometimes I laugh, because you must have engaged them before now. You promise them heaven and earth and say, don't worry, when I get there, we'll look into this. I will do everything. And they will say, have you given us your word? In fact,
anyway,
it has gone into a level where people now sign an MOU with Labour. They sign MOU with a political office seeker now. Most times governors or president aspirants at their aspiration level. They sign, they say, so that when you get there, you will not renege on our agreement.
On what we agreed on.
But of course, reality versus promises.
Anyway, that's a fine place to leave this conversation. I must thank you, gentlemen, for having this interesting conversation this morning. Project manager, social entrepreneur, engineer Akin Olafosi, thank you. As well as President Yewa Awori Youth Council, Abayomi Okeashuaju. Thank you as well.
It's a pleasure.
Right now, let's quickly move on